Welcome to Joe Stunner Boxing. As I'm sure you know, there was a big press conference today for Chris EUBANK Jr. versus Conor Benn, which is, as one of the people put it, only 2 sleeps away. It's like Christmas, isn't it? And I haven't followed a lot of what's been going on this week because, the public workouts, they tend to bore me a bit. And, they're really just, I don't know what you'd call them, PR things. But the press conferences, I suppose, are slightly different. Again, you can read too much into it, way too much into it. But I always think that very often during fight week, sometimes the most revealing things with each fighter are what comes out of their mouths rather than any sort of public workout of, look at me, I'm on the pads, or, that's all very sort of, not even like watching them in the gym, really. It's just a bit of a press thing. But what comes out of their mouths can be relatively interesting. And I didn't think there was a great deal that went on during this press conference. There was the usual back and forth between Chris EUBANK Jr. and Eddie Hearn. Eddie tried to speak. Chris told him, no, you're not speaking. You're still not speaking. You haven't got permission. So he was talking over him. So Eddie said, okay, well, I'll get Frank Smith to do my job. So up comes Frank Smith. Chris still isn't happy. No, you're not speaking either. You're part of the matchroom crew. That was quite curious because, of course, Smith, I don't know whether he's married to Emily EUBANK, who is the youngest of the EUBANK offspring. Chris's younger sister, and I think she's a youngster. She's like the younger of all 4. Well, of course, Sebastian passed away, didn't he? But she's the youngest kid. Chris EUBANK Sr.'s youngest kid, and she's either she is married or she lives with Frank Smith, or there's something going on there. I don't know what it is, but clearly there's a conflict of interest, should we call it, for Frank Smith. But EUBANK was having none of it. EUBANK was like, no, you're not speaking. I don't care, who you are. He didn't mention his sister or anything. He just said, you're not speaking. And there was that. But the most interesting thing for me out of all of the words exchanged, there was really only one part that I thought was potentially revealing, and that was when Ben was going back and forth with EUBANK. Ben mentioned something about pain. You're in for a world of pain, or I don't know, words to that effect. And EUBANK said, "What is pain?" And my reaction was the same as Conor Benn's, which is, "Oh, shut up, Chris. Are we going to get this pretentious, sort of semi-soliloquy about, how do we define pain and all this sort of, head up the arse bullshit?" But in actual fact, no. What he said was pertinent, and it was noticeable that Conor didn't retort, or didn't interrupt him as he was speaking, and didn't retort. Because Chris said, look, my brother, he's referring to Sebastian, is buried in the desert. My son, his son, is only 3, and he's asking, where's my daddy? Will I get to see him? My father, who I idolised all my life, says that I'm a disgrace. That's pain. Making weight. That's what it was about, by the way. Yeah, making weight. Because Chris said it's painful, or he said it's painful, and Ben started saying, well, you're in a world of pain, come fight night. So Chris tried to put it into perspective. He said, making weight is easy compared to that. That's real pain. Those things, life and death, a child being robbed of his father, another child being estranged from his father. Those are real painful things. Now, I wouldn't dispute any of that. And I think that has a, if it's sincerely said, and I suspect it, well, I think it probably was, not only does that show a level of confidence for EUBANK to talk so publicly about personal matters, but it can be used as considerable fuel for the EUBANK fire. So in the darkest moments of a fight, if that is what motivates him, that really can be real energy, no man is more dangerous than when he has a cause. It could be a political cause, could be a religious cause, could be a very, very personal, family-related cause. But when you're in the trenches, when every cell in your body wants you to quit, and you refuse to because of a cause, that makes you a dangerous man. That makes you a dangerous man. And I know that a lot has been made out of, the supposed Benn redemption. He probably views a victory over EUBANK Jr as being his path back into the public's good books. But if EUBANK is serious, if he genuinely feels that, then yeah, I think those are powerful psychological tools to take into the fight. And it wouldn't surprise me if, and I include myself in this, that when we've said EUBANK is really just in it for the money, he talks a lot about money, he's really a bling boy, actually we've done him a disservice there. Maybe there is some real psychological toughness, substance. I mean, yes, he's a tough man. He wouldn't do what he does if he wasn't a tough man, mentally as well as physically. That I thought was very interesting. Maybe we've done him a disservice by thinking he's just there for the money, or that the money supersedes everything else. Just because he's given that impression doesn't mean that's the case. We have to remember that. Now, there was another thing he said that is also worth mentioning. And that is that he accused Conor of running away to Spain because he says Conor was weak-minded. He couldn't face all the piss-taking about, all the egg jokes and people shouting at him in the street that he's a cheat and everything. Whereas EUBANK said, and let's be honest, EUBANK is a lot of people's idea of the panto villain. He said, I didn't go anywhere. I walked the streets of UK during the whole build-up. I had my camp in Britain, and I'm not going anywhere. And so here I am. Again, I think he's probably doing Ben a little bit of a disservice because I don't think Ben ran to Spain. He just, there was a lot to be said for having a sort of private camp away from everyone else and just getting on with your work without any distractions. But again, I think it does show an element of strength for EUBANK to stay put and say, okay, I'm going to have my camp right where you can find me, right on your doorstep, and I don't run. And I was thinking about, after he made that comment, I was thinking about EUBANK's career, and there was one fight that he had which was, I think, very, very telling about just how mentally strong he can be. And that was the Abner Yildirim fight. Because although Yildirim, he had that washout fight against Canelo, he's been stopped a few times. He was undefeated at the time. And EUBANK, this was was it the World Boxing Super Series at super middleweight? EUBANK Jr., who was with his father at the time, they went over to Turkey, went into the cauldron of Yildirim's backyard. And if you look at the footage, it would intimidate most people, and then destroyed a previously undefeated fighter in 3 rounds. I think that showed a lot of gumption from EUBANK, a lot of inner metal. Has Ben faced anything like that in his career? He would argue, well, I've had 2 years of hell because I was falsely accused of PEDs and so on. It's not quite the same thing. And don't forget, how many are we talking at Tottenham Hotspur? 60,000, is it 70,000, 80,000? I don't even know what it is, 60, 70,000. That's a lot of people. And he might need to bear that in mind, might need to bear that in mind, that when the lights are on you and the opening bell goes, those are the real tests. And talk is cheap, and swag is cheap, and all the rest of it's cheap. It becomes a test of one's psychology, mentality. And I think EUBANK in the past has proved that, even though he has throughout his career probably underachieved in terms of belts won and so on. He has at times in his career showed a lot of strength. So just a few thoughts on the press conference. I don't know what you think. Leave your comments below. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me, but let me know what you think. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because we want to build a channel up. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? There's only 2 sleeps to it. It's like Christmas. Have you written your letters to Santa? All right. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.